The morning sun cast long shadows across the Galactic Military Academy's training grounds as Cadet Sarah Chen adjusted her standard-issue combat gear. Around her, alien cadets from dozens of species prepared for what had become known as the Dominance Trial, a ritual combat assessment that determined military hierarchy across the known galaxy. The Zephyrians had insisted on it. "This is highly irregular," muttered Commander Veltar, his blue-scaled head shaking in apparent disapproval. The Altarian had served as the Academy's combat instructor for over 3 decades, and in all that time he'd never seen the proud Zephyrian Empire make such a dramatic gesture. "They're sending General Krasthul himself," whispered another instructor, a insectoid Chitauri whose mandibles clicked nervously. "Their greatest warrior, the Bone Crusher of Rigel 7. Sarah overheard the hushed conversations but continued her stretching routine, focusing on her breathing. She'd read the files on General Krasthul: 8 feet of genetically enhanced muscle, cybernetic implants that increased his reflexes 3-fold, and a combat record that spanned 47 planetary conquests. The Zephyrians were lizard-like, humanoids whose entire culture revolved around martial prowess and domination through strength. "Why are they doing this?" asked Cadet Morgan, a young Centaurian whose 4 arms trembled slightly as he spoke. "Humans have only been part of the Galactic Union for 2 years. Sarah paused her warm-up and looked at her alien classmate. "Because they're scared," she said simply. The statement sent ripples of shocked silence through the assembled cadets. To suggest that the mighty Zephyrian Empire felt fear was tantamount to blasphemy in galactic military circles. "Explain yourself, human," came a booming voice from across the training ground. Sarah turned to see General Krasthul himself striding toward them, his massive form casting an imposing shadow. His scales were a deep crimson, marked with ritual, scars that told the story of countless victories. Twin plasma cannons were mounted on his shoulders, and his clawed hands could crush tritanium with ease. "With respect, General," Sarah said, offering the traditional Zephyrian salute of crossed arms. "Your people have dominated galactic military doctrine for 3 centuries. Suddenly, a new species arrives, one that thinks differently about combat, strategy, and warfare itself. That would make any established power cautious." Krasthul's yellow eyes narrowed. "Caution and fear are not the same thing, whelpling." "No, sir, they're not," Sarah agreed. "Fear is what makes you challenge a 19-year-old cadet to single combat, instead of engaging with our military leaders as equals." A dangerous growl rumbled from the general's throat. Around the training ground, other cadets backed away instinctively. Several instructors moved closer, their hands hovering near emergency stun weapons. "You dare—" "I dare to tell the truth," Sarah interrupted, her voice calm but carrying clearly across the suddenly silent grounds. "You're not here to test human combat capability. You're here because you've studied our war history and it doesn't make sense to you. You can't understand how we kept winning battles we should have lost." The general's massive fists clenched. "Your species fights without honor, sneaking, deceiving, using the environment against opponents, rather than meeting them strength to strength." Sarah smiled. "Exactly." The formal combat circle was drawn in the traditional Zephyrian manner, a 30-foot diameter ring marked with ceremonial symbols representing honor, strength, and dominance. General Krasthul stood at one edge, his weapon systems humming to life, his enhanced muscles flexing as hydraulic joints hissed with pressure. Sarah stood opposite him, wearing nothing but standard academy training gear and carrying a simple combat knife. "This is madness," Commander Veltar muttered to his colleague. "She'll be killed in seconds." "I've reviewed the human military archives," the Chitauri instructor replied, his compound eyes focused intently on the small human figure. "There's something we're missing, something important." The traditional pre-combat ritual began, with General Krasthul reciting his lineage and victories in the ancient Zephyrian tongue. His voice echoed across the training ground like thunder, each word a declaration of dominance and superiority. When it was Sarah's turn, she simply said, "Cadet Sarah Chen, Human Defense Force Academy, Class of 2387. The general laughed. Sound like grinding stone. No victories to claim, little human? Not yet, Sarah replied. The combat began with traditional formality. General Krazathul charged forward with devastating speed, his enhanced reflexes turning him into a blur of crimson scales and metallic augmentation. His plasma cannons fired in perfect synchronization, creating a crossfire pattern that should have incinerated any opponent. Sarah wasn't there anymore. The human cadet had moved sideways and down, rolling beneath the energy beams and coming up inside the general's guard. Her combat knife scraped harmlessly against his armored scales, but that hadn't been the point of the attack. As Krazathul spun to track her movement, his heavy footstep landed on the small puddle of lubricant Sarah had squeezed from her maintenance kit during the roll. His enhanced reflexes, calibrated for perfect traction, couldn't compensate fast enough for the unexpected change in friction. The 8-foot warrior went down hard, his massive frame hitting the ground with enough force to crack the reinforced training surface. His weapon systems automatically engaged their safety protocols to prevent accidental discharge. Sarah was already moving again, not to attack, but to help. She grabbed the general's arm, or tried to, given the size difference, and attempted to help him stand. "Combat is over," she called to the watching instructors. The general fell outside the circle. Krazathul stared up at her from the ground, his yellow eyes wide with something that might have been respect. You did not try to finish me." "No, sir. The objective was to demonstrate human combat doctrine, not to humiliate a respected general." As the medics rushed forward to check for injuries, General Krazathul waved them away and rose to his feet under his own power. He looked down at the small human who had just defeated him through pure tactical thinking and adaptation. "Your species," he said slowly, "fights without honor." Sarah nodded. "Yes, sir. We fight to win." For the first time in anyone's memory, General Krazathul smiled. The Zephyrian Empire would be honored to learn these dishonorable tactics. As the crowd of cadets and instructors buzzed with excited conversation, Sarah checked her chronometer. Perfect timing. She'd promised to meet her study group in the library at noon to work on their xenobiology assignment. After all, it was still only 11:30 in the morning and she hadn't even missed lunch.